Alright, what's good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So, at the time of this recording, we are officially entering our final week in November, which means that 2025 is extremely close. And because Pokemon didn't really give us a lot to work with in 2024, all we can do for the time being is look into the future and hope we get a lot of what we've been asking for over the course of this past year. Here and there across these last couple of months, I've said my piece on things that I would love to see. However, there are still some things that I would love to see going into 2025 that I have yet to talk about. However, before we get to more of my opinions, because let's be frank here, y'all have heard my opinions more than enough at this point, I decided for this particular video, I was gonna pass the pen and paper over to your side of the table, and you write down and tell me things that you would like to see from Pokemon in 2025. About a week ago, I asked for you guys to tell me your hopes and wishes for things that you would like to see from Pokemon next year. You guys gave me plenty of responses, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about those. However, before we get to that, we've been way too scarce on videos like this one, where I actively give you guys the opportunity to voice your opinions. We need to do stuff like this more often. Going into 2025, I think I would like to do videos like this maybe like once or twice a month minimum. Hence why I'm making sure to remind you guys that when we start doing more stuff like this, you're gonna want to make sure to join the Discord so that when I do advertise that we're doing another video like this one, your response will get priority. On top of the fact that, we'll be able to conversate a little more directly. And of course, that is also the best place to tell me if you want to see a very specific video from me, because I don't mind talking about what you guys want to hear. That's the entire reason I do this. So make sure to join up there because we gotta ramp things up. However, there is another space that you guys are probably gonna want to pay attention to as well. Twitter is gross, ugly, and messy. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it, which is why I have too also opened up a Blue.Sky account. You guys know me, I'm usually not all that active when it comes to like other social media. I'm generally really quiet. However, I want to do better with that and have a lot more fun talking about the things you and I both enjoy, which is why Blue.Sky is definitely one of the platforms that I'll be a lot more frequent on as opposed to Twitter. And of course, there too is where you guys will be able to openly tell me videos that you guys would like to see me do, as well as get more priority when it comes to response videos just like this one. Make sure to follow me there so you guys can get constant updates on all of the projects that I'm working on. I've got a couple versus projects, a major retrospective in works right now, and just generally a lot of other things that I feel like you guys would definitely want to see. So make sure you follow me there to keep up with all things related to Soul Story Mode. Okay, that is enough about me, literally. Let's start getting into your guys' opinions. First, over on the Discord side, we have Big Dog DeVesta, who says, "It's been a hot minute since we've had an amazing spin-off game. Most of the recent ones have been okay-ish or kinda ass." I have absolutely no objections to that statement because you are 1,000,000,000,000,000% right. You good and well know me already by now. I have been more than adamant on wanting more spin-off games that aren't mobile or live service. From a business standpoint, I will always 100% understand why they focus so much on the live service and or mobile aspect, because it is simply much more profitable for a much longer period of time. But I can only play so much Pokemon Masters EX before I want something with a little more meat going on. And when I say that, I am absolutely not referring to Pokemon Unite at all. For the record, I played one game of Pokemon Unite recently for a video just for footage. That game is botted to hell and back. There was not a single real person playing online with me in that match. I don't know who the hell is funding this game, but it is for sure not us. So I don't know what's going on with that. And when you say kinda ass, I'm assuming you mean our recent situation with something like Detective Pikachu 2. I can only say what I've heard, and what I've heard is that the game isn't too polished in terms of graphical capabilities, the story is super whatever and very much predictable, the gameplay is very much passable, and that's probably the most damning part of all of it. And what sucks is that despite all of that, I probably still would have actually given the game a genuine college try if I had access to play Detective Pikachu 1 first. I was assuming that at some point they would have ported that game over to the Switch, especially after the success of Detective Pikachu the movie. Suffice to say, that very much didn't happen, and so I didn't really feel like spending an arm and a leg to get a copy on 3DS, so I simply didn't bother. There are so many different spin-offs that I would love to see ported or remade or sequelized on the Switch or Switch 2 or whatever we're getting next year. Detective Pikachu just simply was not one of those things. Oh well. Next along, we got that young boy Scoob/Jordan who says, ports for Coliseum and XD. What would be wild is a remake for them, or a remake of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, and them doing a movie based on the manga, live action, or animated. It's insane that we still have yet to see anything in regards to even a potential port or remake of both Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness. We still technically don't have GameCube games on NSO, right? So I'm assuming what's happening here is that we're most likely going to get that GameCube emulator situation on NSO on the Switch successor. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll actually see those ports finally come through. Because of all the games that I would love for them to port, those are absolutely the least harmless and most doable. Great stories, fun characters, awesome limitations on Pokemon because that is exactly how it's supposed to be done, and a very unique progression system in which you don't actively catch Pokemon in the normal standard way. Ports of those games or another game in that style would make mine and a lot of other Pokemon fans' lives, man. That's a very valid one. Once upon a time, I would have told you that the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky remake was a shoo-in, considering the fact that we did just recently get what was the remake for Pokemon Red and Blue Rescue Team on Switch only a couple of years ago. But I really don't know, because I don't know what's going on with Spike Chunsoft in terms of, you know, the PlayStation deal and stuff like that. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but regardless, we'll have to see what happens with that. Hopefully we do get that remake or remaster, but I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna get my hopes up anymore. And then a movie based on the manga, whether it be live action or animated, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I think a lot of us would prefer it to be animated because it's a lot, you know, more preferable to get that kind of like action and things like that really truly visually realized when it's animated. Doing it in live action is doable, just, I don't know, it's a bit of a stretch. But if it's based on the manga, it would get crazy violent, and I would love to see that, man. I would be over the moon to see some insane stuff like that, bro. Holy moly. Next along here, we have Beefcake, and your response was like half of an answer to somebody else, so I'm just gonna read the second thing. And the second thing here is that I want to see actual DLC for Legend ZA, and more spin-offs are always great too. I was planning on having the conversation about Legend ZA DLC at least a little bit closer to the game's release, or at like some point during that time period, because as far as we know, Pokemon Legend ZA could already be packed to the brim with plenty of content in base game. So at this point, it feels kind of wrong for me to say that I would want Pokemon Legends ZA to have DLC when I don't even know what the base game offers. The only reason I would be saying that is so that the team could have extra time to work on the next project, and they could use that to hold us over while they work on that. That would be pretty much the only reason why I would say right now that I want Legends ZA to have DLC. This is not me saying that I'm opposed, I just don't know what DLC would offer when we don't even know what ZA is offering right now. We know absolutely nothing about that game. And finally, to end off the Discord side of things, we have the Chief, True CBE Champion, who says, I would like to see them actually bring out the first 3 generations on NSO expansion pack, or make them buyable. Either or. You and I both, brother, because I have absolutely no idea as to why we have had Game Boy ports available on NSO for years now, and yet no sign at all of generations 1, 2, or 3, whether it be the remakes or otherwise, available on NSO. What sense does that make? There is no legal way to play these games without selling an entire tome. Why in the world they would want to completely withhold these games from being played instead of making it so that we have to go through a back alley and risk getting stabbed to get these games, and that purchase doesn't even benefit them? Why they would want to allow this to happen, preferably, is completely beyond me. Like, yeah, technically, if I bought it through a third party, sure, now I have a legal copy of Pokemon Fire Red. This purchase did not benefit you in any way, shape, or form. This money did not make its way back to you. I just paid some guy that's had the game for way too long and now is selling it for way more than it's worth. I don't know. We are on the cusp of a brand new console, and maybe, just maybe, once we finally get like the 3DS pack on NSO where we could play and emulate 3DS games, maybe that's when they'll drop the ultimate Pokemon package and we'll finally get access to every game generations 1 through 7 to officially play on NSO. Call me crazy, a guy can dream. So that just about does it for the Discord side of things. We're gonna pop it right over to the YouTube side. Let's start off with Max Crone 3400, who says, I do not want to see any news whatsoever of Gen 10, just so they could take their time with Gen 10 and not repeat what happened with Scarlet and Violet. If there's one thing that I can at the very least guarantee when it comes to the news that we'll be receiving in February, it's that we will not see Generation 10 whatsoever. As long as it seems to have felt, we have only been on Generation 9 for 2 years. It's gonna be at least another 1 or 2 years before we fully move on to Generation 10, or at least I hope that's the case. We're not even remotely close to finished with the anime that's still very much working through its primary plot. We don't even know what Legend ZA is at this point, so we still have to at least get some hefty information on that and then receive the game and play that for a little while before we hear anything about Generation 10. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but to my knowledge, we are on the 28th year of Pokemon, which means that by 2026, we'll be at the 30th anniversary. And that seems like a much more prominent time to start working on a new generation. So at the very least, I can guarantee that we will not be hearing anything of Generation 10 in this upcoming Pokemon Day. But you know what, just in case, knock on wood, I might jinx myself. And I really don't want to. Next along, we have Icefire C67, who says, I just want some Legend ZA news already. This is more than valid. Trust me, as somebody that covers Pokemon related things, it has been absurdly quiet this year. I have a video in regards to this as well, and you know why I believe that we kind of did need to have at least one quiet year. Because when you think about it, most other franchises go through multiple years of absolute complete silence to nobody's dismay. But with Pokemon, we've grown so accustomed to having something every single year in terms of big league games that hearing absolutely nothing, even after an announcement on said game, it's eerie. It feels completely wrong to have absolutely no updates, tidbits, or information on something we know is coming for more than a year. As a fan of many other franchises, this isn't something necessarily new to me. If you too are a Kingdom Hearts fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But regardless, it's a little frustrating, it's a little annoying, and this is coming from, again, somebody who covers content on this, but I think it was necessary. More on this later. Next to that, we have Mr. Hey2237, who says, a new non-Legends game. This seems vague. What do you mean in this context? I mean, it's clear that you don't want another Legends game, which is fine. Maybe Legends wasn't for everybody, but what would you want if not a Legends game? Do you want remakes? Did you want the Gen 5 remakes? Because I'm sure that those are in development, and hopefully they're much better than Gen 4s, but I can't imagine we'll be seeing that anytime soon. In my previous video, we did talk about the possibility of a definitive edition of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Is that something you might be interested in? Because that could be something. Maybe you're looking for a different style of spin-off game, potentially that Pokemon Synapse game that was allegedly in development. Or maybe you're more like me and you want sequels to something as opposed to a remake or something, and that's definitely something. Oh, maybe you want a Let's Go game, possibly. May I offer you a Let's Go Johto, perhaps? Maybe that's something you're looking for? Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what else we would be getting other than a Legends game right now, and you know, I'm fine with that. I mean, hey, I get it. Again, Legends was not everybody's cup of tea. I've seen plenty of people that weren't a big fan of Pokemon Legends, but I don't know, I feel like this one will definitely be a lot better than the previous one, or at least I hope it will. But I don't know, tell me why you don't want a Legends game. Whew. Next one, we got a meaty one from Ivan Zone BR24, who says, firstly, for someone that loves the Pokemon X and Y anime, I hope Legends EA will be fleshed out like the anime was, with less cut corners and wasted potential like the original X and Y games were. I want to see Lumiose and other areas if we have them, best they can be. Secondly, I want not a single word about Gen 10 in 2025. Leave that for Pokemon Day 2026, please. If there needs to be another Pokemon game to release in 2025, be a spin-off, like Mystery Dungeon. I just hope we get another situation like revealing a new generation 1 month after another game, like with poor Legends Arceus in 2022, that was horrible. Finally, I want ZA to run well on Switch 1 because I'm not planning to buy the Switch successor until a few years after its release, especially because I don't have a lot of money and other reasons. Anyway, I want them to end the Switch generation on a good note, and this game have a good reputation like Legends Arceus was. Okay, I guess we'll break it down here. As far as the X and Y situation goes, yeah, I guess, I'll be completely honest, I don't really know as much about the X and Y portion of the anime as I would like to admit. I haven't watched that portion of the anime in a very long time, so I can't sit here and tell you how good and or bad when it, the fleshing out was in that season, so I'll take your word on it as far as that goes. Whatever story and general content that we do receive for Pokemon Legends ZA, I do hope that there aren't too many cut corners, and I do hope that it is very fleshed out in terms of story, in terms of mechanics, and just general gameplay overall. Secondly, like I said a moment ago, it's very likely that we most likely won't hear about Pokemon Generation 10 until 2026, considering that makes more sense for the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. So at the very least, we won't see it until then. That's a guarantee. Again, knock on wood though. It does make plenty of more sense for the game of 2025 after Legends EA, if we do get a second one, to be a massive spin-off game. What that spin-off game would be, not entirely sure. We can talk about it though. I'm always down to talk about the spin-off games. You guys know me, I will probably never get sick of that. And of course, for your last statement, yeah, I agree. I do hope that it runs very well on Switch 1. Knowing them though, they're most likely going to prioritize how the game functions on Switch 2, mostly because that's going to be like a big major player for that console. So that is definitely a valid concern. However, if it is coming out on both, I can't imagine a situation where they took this extra year and didn't at least take a little bit of extra time to polish it up on the Switch 1 if they could manage that extra time. But again, we really don't know what their situation was or could be, so we'll have to play that one by ear. After that, we have Bear Marion 93, who says, honestly, I'm just looking forward to ZA. I'm really hoping that the criticisms for previous games are finally being heard, and that will reflect in the next mainline game. Couldn't agree with you more. Them taking a full year off this year of any form of real content is nothing short of a good thing. However, I can't help being just a little cautious and skeptical with the possibility that this is because they also had to work with a version for the Switch 2, and that's why it took so much time, because they do have to release this game simultaneously, which will be the first mainline game for Pokemon to do this, to my understanding. So that's definitely going to take a toll on development. Hopefully that wasn't the case, but I don't know, man. I really do want to see what comes of this. Next along, we have Electric Dog 10, who says, I wish Pokemon Ranger would make a comeback. Yeah, me too, man. Of course, I do completely understand why it wasn't on the Switch, because there was no way to make any of those mechanics work properly, and having to switch it up would mean absolutely destroying our joysticks on our Joy-Cons, which already barely work as is. What we have to remember though is that we do actually have a brand new console on the horizon, one which I can't help but believe will compensate for DS-like games. Let's keep it real here. For some reason, we still have yet to see any DS ports on NSO. That's because we just haven't gotten that batch yet, because we have no way to play those games, because those require 2 screens, one of them being a touch screen. I can't help but imagine a situation in which this new console will be able to bring that concept back in a new way that makes it so that we can comfortably play a lot of Pokemon Ranger ports, as well as even potentially give us a new Pokemon Ranger game. I should probably slow it down here because I don't want to get my hopes up too far, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. Next along, we have Pharaoh, who says, ZA news, 100%. I want to see at least one Mega. Either that or they show Sharpedo using Vicious Rend. I'm sure that when we do eventually get our Legends ZA news, we'll actually see the game and we'll see at least one Mega Evolution, possibly 3 or 4. We'll have to play that by ear. We'll see what happens. And you know what? Very fair on Vicious Rend. Completely forgot that was a move. I did use those fossil Pokemon in Sword and Shield for a Nuzlocke a couple of years ago. I don't even know if I had that move on. I'm sure I did, I just don't remember. It's been such a long time. But yeah, that move 100% makes sense for Sharpedo, so hopefully it gets it. Next along, we have a big one from Mini Slayer 3241 who says, I expect Legends ZA news. That's all I need to be happy. Also, I expect to see whatever Pokemon Works have to offer. I'm sure that they've not been funded for nothing. I want to see, however, an announcement of some kind of ports for previous mainline Pokemon gens, but Game Freak will either save this for 2026, the 30th anniversary, or isn't even considering ports as an option at all. I'd also really appreciate a non-mobile spin-off game, but I doubt there will be one anytime soon. What I don't want to see, I guess the only thing I'm afraid of is BDSP style remakes. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Pokemon Works was that new branch or something like that, or company or whatever, that just put out a website confirming that they have projects in mind, and I think it's speculated that these are the guys that are actively working on a new spin-off game, whether it be Pokemon Synapse or other. I imagine this will be if that is the case, maybe these guys will be like the spin-off crew or something. I really don't know what Pokemon Works means. That could literally mean anything, so I don't know. We'll have to play that by ear, because Pokemon Works means absolutely nothing as of right now. As far as ports goes, you're probably absolutely right. I do imagine that that is something that they could absolutely save for the 30th anniversary. That does make a lot more sense, especially because, again, I do think that they're going to be introducing DS and 3DS games on NSO, and that's when we'll finally get proper ports for generations 1 through possibly 7. Maybe I'm jumping the gun on that a little bit, but if there would be a time for them to do that, it would be when the new Switch comes out, or the Switch successor comes out rather, and the best time to reintroduce generations 1 through 3 would be the 30th anniversary. So maybe that's what they're waiting for. Makes sense to me. So I don't know, I guess we'll play it by ear. And trust me when I say that UI and millions of others would love to see a spin-off that is not a mobile or live service game. We've already talked about it in this video alone plenty enough. After that, of course, we have Osh Games 8707 who says, some Legends ZA news, Pokemon TCGP expansion reveal, and what I really want and won't get is ports for Switch of Gens 1 through 3. It would make sense with Delta Emulator dropping a few months back to compete. Yeah, I would also like some more ZA news, of course. TCGP, I have been playing a little bit of the TCGP. It is nice to get some good cards. I'm gonna put it like that. And lastly, I don't know anything of this Delta emulator of which you speak, but hopefully if that kicks their asses into high gear so that they can put out the actual ports for generations 1 through 3 and possibly more, then I would be more than happy. After that, we have Michael Edmonds who says, pretty sure 2025 will be the year of Oshawott. Yeah, buddy. It absolutely will. If we could get a full year of Shadow, I think Oshawott is absolutely next in line. Next to that, we have Hip Hopopotamus who says, I don't know how they would pull it off, but a mystery dungeon game with a Mario Maker player built dungeon aspect would be pretty cool. But I'll take mystery dungeon in any way I can get it. I have no idea what it is with Nintendo-based developers not wanting to make their own Mario Maker in games that would absolutely benefit from the Mario Maker style. People have been asking for a Zelda dungeon builder game for ages, and they refuse to do it. In the case of Pokemon, something like that with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, I think that would be some pure heat. I feel like that's something that would make a lot of sense. But then again, I don't know. I think it's just a matter of them considering how long something like that would last, and unfortunately, when you really look at what happened with Super Mario Maker 1 and 2, the difference was so incredibly vast it wasn't even funny. Maybe it's because Super Mario Maker 2 was just more Super Mario Maker, which, wasn't too crazy much, but I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it much. I haven't really read into the sales numbers or how long people played that game for or anything like that, but long story short, I don't know. It is still, unfortunately, a very risky move to make a Dungeon Maker game, but I feel like if they were to lock in and just do it, I feel like they could see some kind of success. Regardless though, I feel like it would be pretty fun. After that, we have the homie Esperize, who says, the rest of the Pokédex, a battle frontier, another secret base type system similar to Oras that basically let you make your own gym, bring back the Game Corner as an arcade to play various mini-games from Pokemon's history, since fictional gambling is a sin according to the ESRB, but actual gambling via loot boxes isn't. A rival that doesn't pick the starter weak to yours so they can do their job as a rival properly. I could go on, honestly. These are all very valid mechanics that I can absolutely see in a game after Pokemon Legends EA. ZA is probably not going to have any of this. Probably not even one, not even a rival, unfortunately. However, by the time we get around to Generation 10 or a remake or something like that, I feel like they could absolutely play into a lot more of these mechanics, way more, because there's no reason that a lot of this stuff disappeared. The Pokédex I can understand to an extent because, again, we have so many Pokemon that putting every single one in the next mainline game after ZA would probably be a little ridiculous. As long as we have a decent and valid reason as to why not every single Pokemon is available in the base game, then fine, I can live with that. But them lying to us in Sword and Shield was not the way. But we've already talked about that plenty. However, though, you do bring up a very valid point when it comes to the Game Corner, because how is it that gambling isn't really considered gambling when it comes to stuff like even like pocket TCG, right? That's technically a form of gambling. You are spending time and money trying to get cards. You are using those cards in battle, sure, but you are gambling away time and potentially money to get those things. And yet a virtual in-game currency that you're spending to quote unquote gamble is not okay. How does that make any sense? I don't really get what's happening here. But yeah, no, for the most part, I really do hope to see a lot of this stuff in the next mainline game. Don't know if they're going to do it for ZA, but again, we don't really know enough about ZA to properly, conclude if this stuff could be even possible within that game. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have Denzel Young 5782, who says, I always thought it would be cool if they found a way to have battles without HP bars or levels, so you would feel a real attachment to your Pokemon because you don't know exactly how much health they have, and if they clutch out the win, you respect them so much more, and without visible levels, you have a real anticipation for when they evolve, and you'll have to pay attention to how much stronger they get in every fight. This is actually a brilliant idea for a hard mode. I feel like this is something that like really hardcore players would love to see. I don't think that they would do that like in the base game for a game, or like rather the normal version of a Pokemon game. I for sure don't think they're doing that for Legends EA, but if we were to have some form of hard mode situation going on, I feel like that would make things really intense, like scary intense. I'm not entirely sure how this mechanic would work though in an actual situation, because we still have like level up movesets and things like that that we have to pay attention to. So I don't really know how this mechanic would actually pan out if we had it, but a fun idea in theory. Next up, we have Comta Steven 6199, who says, a new mini web series. Those are always so cool to get. I 100% agree with you. I feel like for the most part, the web series are some of the strongest told Pokemon stories in the entirety of the franchise, and it's just insane that these aren't how they work with the main anime. Like, we've never seen such high quality animation and storytelling in the main anime. It's always through these web series, and it is so incredibly frustrating because these little episodes give us so much story, character, and everything in regards to the world of Pokemon that the anime, the main anime, the weekly just doesn't touch, and it's so insanely frustrating. Now, I will admit, the new anime is definitely doing a little bit better. I do have to play catch up a little bit. I'm like half a season behind or something like that, so I will catch up. But I do agree that I would love to see another new web series, whatever that may be. And finally, we have Your Weeb Sub, who says, we are most probably getting ZA news in the present, and that's what I expect this year. Gen 10 news will most probably come out next year, but I wish in the near future they make remakes of all previous generations with an open world map set in the modern day, and Legends Kyurem is also on my wish list. I feel like every single remake becoming an open world game is quite the tall order that will never get delivered. That's definitely a big ask that, in theory, again, is fun, but that would just simply take way too long. And if they were to rush those out, it would be so detrimental because they have the opportunity to do the craziest thing in that situation that I don't simply think that they would take. So I don't know. But other than that, yeah, I think I and everybody else here is pretty much expecting that Pokemon Day Presents to primarily focus on Legends EA. And hopefully it's only Legends EA. Maybe a spin-off, that would be cool too, but I don't know, we'll talk about it in the future. But other than that, I think that's everybody. I have covered literally every question, and if I somehow missed yours, I am so sorry. But because there was kind of a smaller feedback this time around, I decided to just do everybody. So this is a nice, lengthy, meaty one, probably one of the more longer videos in this past couple of months, but I feel like, you know, we could use a couple of these every now and again. But, you know, this is one of those situations in which I want to give you guys more of an opportunity to speak your minds to, you know, a broader audience and things like that. So, you know, again, I would love to do these a little more often and give you guys the opportunity to talk and things like that about these very specific subjects. So again, join the Discord rather, follow me on Blue.Sky, and then that way we could talk about any and all things related to Pokemon in different ways and forms and things like that. What we'll be expecting, things that we want to see, mechanics that we'd love, and all sorts of things. I want to do these way more often than I have been. But with that, I am officially worn down. So once again, I'm gonna pass the mic over to you guys that didn't get the chance to voice your opinion on this, and I would like you guys to tell me, do you agree with everything that was said here? Do you think that Legends EA news is absolutely inevitable? We'll be getting that very, very shortly, and we'll probably be seeing a lot of new cool stuff, hopefully spin-offs and things like that with the introduction of the Switch successor. Or do you not agree with any of the opinions voiced here today? You feel like your opinion should have been heard, and you feel like there is more to talk about here. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. And with that, ouch, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm Gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor, taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.